Welcome back to Carry the G in MKE. I'm Aaron Nagler and joined as always by Camille Davis out there in Milwaukee. I'm coming to you from New York City, and we're both coming to you after a Packers victory. Camille, what is this feeling I'm feeling? I don't understand. I have forgotten.
I had almost forgotten myself. First win in like 42 days or something like
Holy
that.
Toledo.
Man, there's so many firsts or things that haven't happened in a while that we can talk about. It is such a difference in this week than it was last week where I was like, I don't know how many ways we can keep saying the same thing, but they
Right.
gave us some new things to react to, positive
They
things.
did. I mean, imagine that. The funny thing is there's still plenty to look at and go, okay, that's
Absolutely.
still a problem. But there was certainly I'm not going to say like solved anything, but there started to see some solutions and or at least development. I thought there were a ton of young players, specifically rookies, who stepped to the fore. I mean, you don't have to look much further than on the defensive side of the ball, but I think on both sides, some of the receivers really came to play. The drops certainly weren't the issue they were the week prior.
Mhm.
Just, I'm never going to apologize for a win. You know, I've seen in certain sections of the old Packers Twitterverse, it's like, people are upset about the loss of possible draft stock and things like that. Man, I root for the Packers. I want them to win every game they play. That is just how I'm
Same.
built.
Same.
So I never apologize for it.
I mean, and with that too, like the draft is going to take care of itself. Like this isn't the
Correct.
NBA draft where it's only 2 rounds
Right.
and the likelihood of finding an impact player further along down the draft is lessened. Like, of course, we know at the top of the draft there are going to be prospects who project to play very well, but the NFL draft is littered with guys who can make an impact from round 1 through 7.
Absolutely. And of course, so much is driven the narrative, the discussion around Jordan Love, the quarterback position in general, but Love specifically. And I thought he had a really nice day yesterday. Obviously, there's the deep shot to Watson up the left sideline. You'd
Yeah.
like to see a better ball. But outside of that play, I think for the most part, he played really well and solid football in the sense of being able to be efficient, right? Drive the length of the field, put up points, something we've seen scant evidence of here the last month or so. It is funny to me how, I don't want to say normalized, but how expected that is in Green Bay. Like, it's not a huge numbers day by any stretch of the imagination, but it's a very solid performance, very efficient. I mean, the man just did what the job requires. They scored points and they won the football game. It's so much better than the performances we've seen over the course of this losing streak, these last 4 games. I'm not saying he's arrived or anything like that, but it's a nice positive step forward, hopefully something he can build on.
Absolutely. And to your point about being his best game in some time, this was the first time since week 2 where he didn't turn the ball over himself. Like
Right.
5 straight games with at least one interception. So to come in this game and have a clean game, at least from Jordan Love at the quarterback position, we know
Right.
there were some fumbles from some skill guys, but for your quarterback to take care of the ball and to generally make the right decisions is something that you want to see. To your point, the ball he underthrew to Watson, that one you want back.
Yep.
You want back the sack he took at the end of the second
Oh
quarter
yeah.
going into half, where it's
Yes.
like your internal clock should have been telling you here,
Gotta
like, gotta
go.
get,
Gotta go. Gotta go.
gotta
Yeah.
go, gotta go,
Yeah.
gotta get rid of this one. But like you said, outside of that, it was a good performance from Jordan Love. And it's a lot like the performance from Love that I was looking for him to have throughout the course of this season, right?
Hmm.
One that is built upon the run game. We finally got to see Aaron Jones get
Amen.
over 20 touches this week, 24 touches between the carries
Who'd have
and
thunk it?
receptions. Who would have thought that that could help, help your game out? But it did. Having that run game there with Jones leading the way, with Dylan helps open things up because now play action, defenses are going for that. They're going to start playing you for the run. It's going to make the passing a lot easier for Love. And that's what we want. We want the offense to be as easy as possible as we can make it for Jordan Love. And when he's put in position to make decisions, he was making the right decisions on Sunday.
He was, and he was, for the most part, I thought he delivered really good balls across the way. I mean, you can, and people did on our watch party quibble with the placement on several of the throws, sure, but that's most quarterbacks, in the heat of the battle when you're just trying to get the ball out, putting it in spots where your receivers can go make a play. He did that repeatedly, and I was really impressed with some of the side, like stuff outside the numbers. Like there were a couple throws that he has like far side opposite hash. There's one in particular to Dobbs towards the end of the game. That's a big boy throw. And
Yeah.
I think it probably gets dismissed or forgotten about because it's not a deep strike to the end zone. It's not a big play that's going to show up on a highlight reel, but that's a that's a big time NFL throw, and those are the things that you wanted to see from Jordan over the course of this last month, that hopefully maybe you're starting to turn a page and this is the beginning of something he can build on, because he can look at this and go, you can look at this tape and go, I can do all of this. And I know I can trust these guys to be there and, catch these passes and make these plays. And this is just hopefully a first step.
Absolutely. And speaking of guys catching plays, I just have to say it. Musgrave got his first career touchdown.
Let's go.
Didn't fall down.
He didn't fall.
He didn't fall down.
Somebody, I think it was Big B, pointed out he did. There was a little slip, but he didn't fall down.
He slipped, but he didn't fall and got the tutty out of it. He had two passes that traveled at least 20 yards. So, seeing Musgrave get into the action as well, it was something where I was like, we're finally starting to see it. And that play design for that tutty, it was beautifully done. Beautifully done. Jordan sold it well. Musgrave ran it well.
It was interesting, too, how Jordan said after the game that's the play itself. He is able to, if he thinks it's there, pull the trigger on any one of those passes to the side that look like fakes, in the end result. But I didn't realize that, because I've seen this play before. I know the 49ers ran it to Kittle a couple years ago. I think Seattle has run it as well. But it's that thing where I thought those were just clear pump fakes, this is all part of the design. But apparently he can pull the trigger if he wants. But I'm glad he kind of stuck with the entirety of the play. And it was great to see Musgrave get in the end zone. Although, young man, welcome to Green Bay, Wisconsin. Go in the stands, man. We've had so little cause for celebration in Green Bay this season, let alone the ability to have our guys Joe go jump in the stands. Romeo Dobbs scored a touchdown last week. He couldn't even spike the ball because they were down so much. You got an opportunity to be celebratory with your fan base. Go jump in the stands, man. Lambeau Leap.
I feel like we might have had more opposing teams do Lambeau Leaps this year than we have actual Packers. Now that I think about it.
Yes, I think you are correct. And it is disgusting.
Yeah.
It is awful.
We got to fix that.
Got to fix that next home game. No question about it. Flipping over to the defensive side of the ball, I know a lot is made about the fact that they're going up against a backup quarterback, and I understand that. It is very true. That is a fact. I will also point out that there are certainly backup quarterbacks playing across the league this year, because that's what happens at the quarterback position, right? Injuries. So guys who are backups are thrust into starting roles, and they roll. They're able to at least move the ball, put up points, nothing of which the Rams could do yesterday. And one real big bright spot I thought was Isaiah McDuffie. We're talking about rookies, and for good reason. This team is very youth-oriented, but it's not like McDuffie's a extremely young player. Has been around for a couple years, but man, for a guy who probably only found out he was probably going to play on Friday, where they had gone through the most of their practice week with Walker, and then Walker has the groin kind of flare up on him, and then to get inserted into the lineup and play as well as he did, I was very impressed.
Packers didn't lose a beat with McDuffie in there. And that's the thing that you hope to see, because we know how important Quay Walker is to this Packers defense. And I know that there are fans who call out the fact that he has some mental lapses from time to time. Understood, but he is a tackling machine. He plays very quickly. He is someone that this defense needs at the linebacker position. So for him to be out, it was kind of like a whoa. Not only do we have Quay out now in that linebacker spot, but we already knew the secondary condition with Douglas being traded, with Savage and Stokes on IR, Ford out, and then Kenny Clark even went down during this game. So you're already sitting there thinking okay, what is our position of strength going to be on defense here? And you might have had some questions, but McDuffie was one of those guys who came through, as did other young guys on this defense, and show up and show out. I believe McDuffie had 2 tackles for losses throughout the game. There were so many different guys where it was I was jotting notes okay, I want to talk about McDuffie because he made some splash plays. Right. I want to talk about Carrington Valentine because he played well. There were just so many names to call out.
Another rookie, Wooden had a tackle for loss on a key third and short.
Yes.
Carl Brooks had a number of plays. Tons of young guys stepping up on defense, man. You love to see it. Absolutely love to see it.
Thinking about Carl Brooks, it reminds me something about this defense in its whole. When we drafted Carl Brooks, the knock on him was he didn't play against great comp.
Right.
And it's okay, well, if you didn't, then you should dominate it.
Right.
And that's what he did. And again, with this Packers defense, for those who were saying, oh, well, it was against the Rams and their backup quarterback, If that is what you're saying and they are that bad, then the defense did exactly what you would expect them to do to a bad offense. And I have
Exactly.
no problem with it. And in my opinion, that's a good sign because it's like you would hate to see them struggle
Exactly.
against the backup
Which I
quarterback.
got to admit, I was expecting.
Right.
Like
You
when they
never knew.
said Rippon was going to start, I was like, it doesn't mean much to me. Like I was
Yeah,
ready
you never
for it.
know. And they came up and they did their job. They showed out and they showed out the way you're supposed to if you're playing against poor competition.
Right, 100%. One thing was really noticeable, obviously, was not only the play of Carrington Valentine, but his energy. The
Yes.
way he was, I'm not going to say borderline, like there was a few, like, all right, dial it back. Let's not get a flag. But man, it was great to see him just so thrilled just to be out there making plays, flying to the football, getting really, I mean, up in people's grill, play after play, down after down. I'm not going to say it was a breath of fresh air, but it was so nice to see not only his energy, but the defense kind of feed off of it after every play.
Cornerbacks are known for having just an inflated worth of self. Like cornerbacks is a position group of
Right.
guys
Well,
who
you
think
have to,
very
right?
high. You
Yeah.
have to.
Yeah.
They think very highly of themselves. And we saw in the preseason, we saw Valentine flash, and we were like, wow, the Packers might have to find more ways to get him on the field. And then when he got on the field, especially against Denver, he got picked on. And it was kind of like, okay, he's
Yeah.
taking some lumps here. And now you're putting him in the starting position. How will he respond? He responded well. He had that right energy. He looked like he fit right in across from Ja on the other side. And
Yep.
Jair looked like Ja money on Sunday as well. So to see Valentine come out playing fast, not overthinking it, making impact plays, it was good to see. You love to see that progress from him. And that's what the season's about. Again, it's a developmental year. You're looking to see guys get better over time. And after the preseason that he had, after taking some lumps throughout this regular season, to see him come out and have a strong showing in his first, like, hey, you're the guy here on the outside today. Go do your job. To see him get the assignment, take it to heart, and complete it well, it's something positive to lean on. It's something that should be looked at and
100%.
saying, like, hey, this is a good takeaway from this game.
What did you make of I'm not going to say offside penalties, but the
Oh, man.
officiating there early that really, I'm not going to say set the tone, but it was so frustrating. Like it's already been a frustrating season, right? So then to get these offside penalties, which are clearly judgment calls and have not been called in most NFL games that I have ever watched in my 50 years on this planet, to suddenly have this become a thing in this season against this team, it was hard to hold it together, Camille. I ain't going to lie. That was a frustrating moment,
Ah, the Eagles strike again. That's I
right?
feel it's all because of the tush push
Of
what Philly
course.
has going on, the brotherly shove, all of that. So the NFL is trying
Which,
to
by the way, didn't see
crack
much
down.
difference in how the Eagles lined up last night
That is what I was going to say. I
versus
was like,
what the
if you're
Packers
going to
did.
call it, be consistent because I saw listen, and the thing that is so frustrating with it as well, because when they first called it, they said it was on Yash, I
Nyman, right?
believe.
Nyman.
And
That's why. And
right,
then I was really going ballistic because on the replay, it's so clear he's not anywhere near the neutral zone. Like he's offset from the line. That got me going. And then they were like, "No, it's Sean Ryan. Or I'm not Sean Ryan. No, it's Runyon." And I was like, "Oh, okay. Let me go back and look at it." But then I went back and looked at it, and I'm like, "It
and
still doesn't
still,
look right."
right. And then they called it a second time on Runyon again, and it's like initially I was like, how do you let this happen 2 times if you've already been corrected in the same game? But afterwards, I did see Runyon say, I didn't know the first one was on me. I heard them
Yeah,
say,
they said
Yash, I
Nyman,
didn't change
right?
anything
Why would
about
you?
how I was lining up.
Well, and the
Knowing
fact that
that it
he's
was me,
been
I didn't
lining
make
up
the
like
change.
that his entire football
Yeah,
life, not just NFL career,
yeah.
his entire football life, and never been called.
But now, because of brotherly shoves,
Oh
it's
my
going to be
God.
called, and now they have to make an adjustment. That's one thing where it's like, okay, it happened in this game. It sucked. Kind
Didn't
of
cost him
petty.
a win, so
Right. But
I'll
now,
settle a little bit.
hopefully, we just don't see it again. Now that we are all aware,
Lord, right?
let's make the adjustment.
Well, what's interesting though is that after the second one, you see Runyon get benched and Sean Ryan put in there for 7 plays, one drive, ends in a touchdown.
Mhm.
I'm not saying. I'm just saying. Sean Ryan looked pretty good.
He did.
He did not look too bad. He was road grading on some of those run plays, especially. So I'll be fascinated to see if anything happens there because I mean, kid played well.
Hey, I mean, we've seen over the last couple of weeks that it doesn't seem like the Packers have a fear now of moving around offensive linemen if they're noticing someone's not playing the way that they need to be playing. So maybe with what he put on tape this past week, maybe we do see some more Sean coming up in some other games. But who knows?
You know they're not. They're just going to let him sit there. I mean, it'll be like Amari and Nixon all over again. Like they're just like, there's this guy who's clearly talented and probably better than the guy who's playing, but we believe in the guy who's making all the mistakes.
Yeah.
That's how they roll. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. I don't know if there's something in the water, but like that is their MO. I don't know why. I will say towards the end, after Nyman had the back issue, it was good to see Rasheed Walker get back in there and at least hold it together. You know what I mean? Like they didn't have to change very much on offense, and they were able to execute at a pretty damn high level. And he didn't seem particularly overwhelmed or much of a problem. So, I mean, that's a boon. Obviously, that's the job, right? You have to produce when called upon. But man, we know he's had issues throughout this season, and I thought he, for a guy who had been benched and then was called upon, I thought he played pretty well.
I would
It was
agree
nice
with
to
that.
see.
And there was, I think it was like a screen, and he got out and
Yep.
like he just started rolling. I was like, okay, use athleticism.
Yeah.
Let's go,
Right.
Walker. Like it
Yep.
was good to see him making impact plays and hearing his name for positive things, because generally in
Right.
a football game, when you're hearing offensive linemen's names, it's not a good
It's
thing. You
not a
kind of
good
want to
thing.
be sight unseen, do your job, get the assignment done, and keep it moving. But when they actually called out his play and his work, like, hey, look at Walker getting out ahead of this block, like, you love to see that. And like you said, especially after coming off of a benching where it's kind of like, okay, how does this affect this man's mentality? He came in and said, I still got a job to do, rolled up his sleeves and got it done. And offensive line play has been something that we've been talking about over the last few weeks as part
Right.
of the problem. There's been many problems. Now it's part of it. And against an Aaron Donald led defensive front, they did all right.
I mean, Donald's still a problem, and that was the thing
Always.
where your point earlier was spot on regarding the run game, right? This was a game they had to run the ball. I mean, if they couldn't get the run going, they were DOA.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where you can't ask your quarterback to go drop back 40, 50 times against that front and against that player and expect to have success. So the fact that they were able to produce on the ground, stay ahead of the sticks for the most part,
Mhm.
that made the offense work. And that meant that the guys up front could fire off the ball rather than continuously be stepping back trying to hold off an onslaught. It was nice. It was nice to see kind of, and not only that, the run game, working, but complementary football. Hey, the defense getting
Love the
stops,
concept.
offense scoring points. Now, here's my question: Do we dare? Do we dare dream for two in a row? Can the Packers go into Pittsburgh and get a win? I don't think the Steelers team is like gangbusters. I do think they're talented as hell, and I do think they have a much better defense than the Rams do. So I don't, especially playing at home. So I mean, I'm not sitting here saying it's going to happen or anything, but dare we dream two in a row for the Green Bay Packers?
Absolutely. I mean, hey, listen, if you listen to Jair, dream for the next 10 is
Right. All right. Slow down, John Money. All right. Well, I'm going. I just want to beat the Steelers. I don't care about 10 in a row. But hey,
no, but
got one. But
I
here we
mean, we
go.
look at everything on a weekly basis, right? We
Right.
did our job this past week against the Rams. We went 1-0. Now we set our sights to the Steelers, which is going to be a bigger level of
Much
competition
tougher
here.
test.
Yeah,
Yes,
much
no
tougher
doubt.
test than what we just had. But hopefully they can look at the film and build off of some things that they did well here and continue that momentum forward. Like, I think we have a chance to go into Pittsburgh and win. I don't think it's like completely crazy to think the Packers could win in Pittsburgh. Now, we might not be favored to do
Oh
so.
no, they opened as 3.5 point underdogs from what
See,
I saw.
but
So, but
that's all
hey,
right because we know it's any given
it's
Sunday
not a
as it is.
touchdown, so I'll take it.
Any given Sunday, as long as the Packers show up and if this defense can continue to build up that performance that they had. Hopefully, Kenny Clark isn't
Yeah, I mean,
out.
it sounded like it wasn't long term, but we'll see. You never. I mean, I would suspect he probably misses this game, but
Yeah,
who knows? And look, when Clark went out, I thought guys held up pretty well.
they stood up.
I don't think Wyatt and Slayton and those guys like covered themselves in glory or anything, but they were able to do the job necessary, and it wasn't like they were blown off the ball continuously. There were a few run plays where I think the Rams took advantage of them, but for the most part, it wasn't like losing Kenny made them fall apart, which is a good
Right.
sign.
That's a great sign. And again, it's another opportunity for young guys to step up. So we'll see how that look. Even Lucas Van Ness, he had some
He
good
did.
pass
He was
rush
active
as
as
well.
hell. Yes.
He was
Love to
active.
see it.
So it'll be fun to see him against Pittsburgh in a very difficult place to play,
A
even though it's
real
not Heinz
tough
Stadium
environment.
anymore. I'm still gonna call it Heinz.
Well,
It's like
of
Miller Park
course.
here.
Yeah, no. Always Miller Park. Always Heinz Field or hell, Three River Stadium back in my day. I will say, Pittsburgh, if you ever get a chance to go to that stadium to take in a game, I highly recommend it. It is awesome. The whole
It looks
setting,
like it.
right on the rivers. It's so cool if you like come from a certain side of the stadium. You go and you overlook the stadium and the river behind it and the downtown. It's a really cool setting. Hopefully, the Packers can have a better result than the last time they went there in 2017 with that
Whew.
horrific hit by T.J. Watt on uh, the backup quarterback, whose name is escaping me at the moment. But
And that guy right there, TJ Watt is
T.J.
going to
Watt,
be I mean,
he's a
Pa-
problem. He's
he's
a
a
problem.
problem. And the Packers have seen a few problems already this season. So it's another
Truly.
one to add to the list.
I mean, hopefully they have a better result than they did against Hutchinson or Crosby and those guys. I mean, they need to have a better solution because he can wreck
Mhm.
your game real quick. Camille, can't thank you enough for the time. As always, let the people know where they can find you and what you're doing this week.
For sure. Catch me every day on the Locked On Bucks podcast. We will
My
have
Bucks.
yes, your Bucks. We had a new episode today that came out with me and Justin, just recapping the last week and looking ahead to tonight's battle against the Nets. There will be a post game show for that as well. Post game shows all week. So tune in to that. You can also catch me over at Technical Foul Podcast, TECKNICAL, a weekly sports podcast where we take a look at the biggest news from NFL, NBA, and the wide world of wrestling, and recap it. So our episode will be recording live tomorrow, Tuesday at about 7 o'clock Lambeau time. So tune in to our YouTube to be part of the show. Otherwise, you can catch it when it drops on audio form every Wednesday, wherever you listen to podcasts.
And you can do the same here. Carry the G and MKE is available on all your podcast regular stops. So if you're listening later and you want to listen and you don't want to see my ugly mug, Camille's a lovely visage, but if you want to just listen, you can subscribe on any of the regular podcast places. Camille, thank you so much, and I'll talk to you next week.
Absolutely. Take care.